Prada is an Italian company engaged in fashion, including leather goods, handbags, clothing, eyewear, fragrances, footwear, and accessories. It goes back to what you were saying earlier, Anthea. Rather list what it is not involved in, and it's listed in Hong Kong.
Yeah, that's weird though, because it's headquartered in Milan and it is controlled by the Prada family. Remember, it was established in the 1915 sort of period by two old Italian gents. And the woman who's the current joint CEO, Miyuka Prada, is in fact the granddaughter of the old founder. And her husband is the CEO. So it's like a family-owned business with a modest amount of free float, which they listed in Hong Kong because that's where they saw most of the demand for their product. Interesting
Market
move.
cap here is 61.1 billion Hong Kong dollars, a PE of 21.3 and a dividend yield of almost 4%.
So for the record, 61 billion Hong Kong dollars. Remember, the Hong Kong dollar is fixed to the dollar, so that's about 8 billion US dollars of market cap. So quite small,
well
actually.
done on the equation there. You put this one on the table in terms of having the discussion as part of the overall luxury goods sector. Why?
So Prada really, it's like an enduring brand. You know, they're leather goods. It's not fast fashion. Perhaps the Miu Miu brand is a bit more fashion conscious.
What is that? Is that clothing?
Yes. So that's clothing retail. In fact, it was named after the granddaughter who now runs the company. Yeah. Yes, that's right. And so you would probably worry about that a bit, but even that has actually outstripped or kind of done better in the margin in the last year or two than the classic Prada, you know, traditional leather goods box designs.
But is this the ultimate defensive?
Look, the
Have
share
we seen it
price
under
looks
pressure?
a bit rotten. It came on and goes up and then has drifted away quite disappointingly. And I think it's been earnings related, also some of the similar trends we've observed.
So again, we're talking about a customer that is coming under pressure and maybe buying down.
I think you're right that potentially the customer is buying down, because what they did see in the last results was that in fact sales were declining, and you never want to see that in a company, right? And until you see sales kind of picking up again, or some proof that sales are going to pick up, it's a difficult one to call, because yes, as you say, higher LSMs are defensive, but is Prada defensive is the question.
And you're saying right now, given that share price graph, it's not as defensive as potentially it should be.
They're going to show us the share price chart now so we can talk to it, but that's not a particularly happy looking thing. But can I share a personal story about Prada?
I would never have asked whether it was defensive if I had seen that stock before.
You know, I own one
pair
pair of casual black shoes, which I bought from the Prada store in Rome for 880 euros.
How many years ago, Paul? Can I ask you this?
Like about 2 years ago. But you know
I thought you were going to tell me 10 years ago and they were still going.
880 euros is like 14,000 rand. Now you might say, what is someone going to go and spend that amount of money on a pair of shoes? But I can tell you, this pair of shoes looks like the day they came out the box. They are beautifully made, and that's the difference.
Do you wear them regularly? Let's just do a little investigation into the story.
During the winter, when I'm not wearing, shorts, I wear them all the time, and they are fantastic. And I expect to wear them for at least 10 years. So that's the point. This is the kind of company that makes the kind of goods that you can confidently...
You're talking about quality, long-term investment, effectively, even from a clothing perspective. Listen to Paul telling us about his Prada shoes. Would you ever have thought that this could possibly happen?
He seems to know more about fashion than we do.
No, absolutely.
Well, I didn't know about the Miu Miu dresses, so I was caught short there.
Well, something new for you to take home.
But the stuff is fantastic, and the stores are incredible. I mean, these Rem Koolhaas designed designer stores in New York and elsewhere. They opened a magnificent new store in the Mall of the Emirates. I've never been there in Dubai, but apparently that's tremendous.
You would have thought that you had been there. And here, before we call it, anything else to add?
Yeah, so what Paul's saying is very interesting, because I think one of the issues with the stock is that it is so locational. So they don't really have an e-commerce business. I mean, management have done well to innovate a bit, but there could be a distribution issue here.
There's also a family issue. You know, what happened here is I think there's only about 15% of the company free float. The rest is owned by Miyuka Prada, her husband, and her cousins. Okay, so that's a concern.
So very difficult to get hold of.
A lot of debts, because obviously when they want to expand, they use debt because the family doesn't want to get diluted. So there's a bit of that issue. There's talk that maybe they'll sell to a private equity group, but the family
So even
don't
with
want
that
to.
share price graph and the limited free float, this is not the deal of the century.
I'm afraid I'm going to go not hot, because I love the brand and I like the concept of it, but I just think there's potential for share price underperformance while the family sort of muddles their way through some of the development.
Yeah, and people are not continuously buying, so you're not going to go out to buy another pair of Prada shoes in a hurry, are you?
No.
So it's
Hot
a
or
nut.
not? Not hot?
Not hot.
Not hot.